we're talking about how different planes of existence connect to each other. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Orphic. My name is Alyssa. I'm an astrophysicist. I'm a PhD, and I do research on the intersection of science and spirituality to understand how the universe works from a conscious, energetic perspective. So please follow me on Instagram at interdimensional.astrophysics.
Hey, I'm Mikayla at Mariposa Moonchild on Instagram, and I work with energy medicine and shadow alchemy, and I have a few different offerings and programs that I offer, so check me out there. And then together, Alyssa and I are exploring the mysteries of the universe.
There's a lot of mysteries for us to explore.
Yeah, I just got a visual of the, like, Scooby-Doo, what's that, like, the van?
Yeah.
Is it the mystery machine?
Yeah, I think it's called the Mystery Machine. That sounds right.
Yeah, I just got a visual of, like, that just, like, going around the cosmos, just, like, flying around.
That is us. That's us in our astral mystery machine.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start off by doing some deep breathing and grounding breaths. So Mikayla will lead us with that.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a moment. If you're able to, I invite you to close your eyes. Let's just take a moment of stillness, a moment with our body, a moment with our breath. We're going to take some deep cleansing breaths. So take a deep breath in, sipping up our beautiful air into our lungs and filling our lungs all the way up to the top. Pausing at the top, holding, and opening the mouth and letting it go. Another deep breath. Sipping up that air. If you think you can't sip anymore, keep sipping all the way up. And hold. Release. Let's do one more deep breath like that. Filling your lungs all the way up. Pausing at the top. Feeling the stillness in your body. The stillness in your spirit. And when you're ready, let go. And just gently bring yourself back into this space.
Okay. While we were doing that, I was just thinking about how I haven't really been meditating that much recently. And I was like, I should do that.
Me either, actually. That's also something that I'm like, it's like constantly I'm receiving the guidance to like do. And then this is like back to like the last episode talking about some of the distraction stuff. So it's interesting because it's like, what part of myself is afraid of myself? Right?
Yeah.
Like, right?
Totally.
It's so interesting. So I'm taking time to feel into that more and like really sit with like these habits that aren't like serving me and what it's bringing up for me, because like there's also like you get to a point where I'm just like, I'm not gonna let myself hold myself back. You know, like I'm tired of playing that game. Tired of my own fucking shit.
Don't I know it?
With love, right? With love, because I've also done the whole shame spiral, self-hate thing too. So like the balance of like understanding that self-love also is maybe implementing some of that structure and discipline, which I think I need. So like even my body kind of goes at like the word discipline. So there's definitely some work for me to do around that, which is interesting because there's definitely areas in my life where I have been disciplined and I can hold a discipline. And then there's areas in my life, like not so much. So there's definitely some like self-exploration to do there.
Yeah, it's like this little aspect of us is, it's kind of like what we were talking about in the beginning of the last episode, like how there's always going to be a piece of us that like cannot be fully convinced in the obligation energy, and it's like you need to gently bring it along, to just to meet yourself where you are, but from that place of like, yeah, from love and like gentleness.
I mean, will there always be a piece of you that feels that way?
I think, okay, I don't know about always, but I just, the way that I see it is like, I don't know, I think because I think maybe because of just like the human brain and the fact that we're so operated by our subconscious mind, and like the way that I see it is like there's always like a little bit of a disconnect between like what you want to do and then like what you're actually doing. And obviously we can bring that into unification, but it's kind of just like, it actually, the way that I'm seeing it is more like it's just a part of being human. It's like you have to combine your physical actions with our intentions, and so there's like these two things that needs to be aligned for us to actually like align and do something. So it's kind of like a constant conversation between like, I know I want to do this, I know my soul wants to do this, but like I'm lazy, but I'm this, or don't feel like getting up in this moment. Like, you know, there's always like some kind of two energies that need to align for you to actually do something.
True. I think there's a way where you can get, like, I think in the beginning there's probably more of that, but I feel like there's also a place where you can get like aligned where like the resistance is less and less. And I think that's like working on like the neuro pathway stuff, because in the beginning it's so hard because our neural pathways are to our old patterns, right? So this is like the cycle breaking, but then if you break the cycle or the pattern and you remake the pattern, then that's the path of least resistance, which actually becomes the easiest path. But it takes work to make that new neural pathway, which is also that's what they call the pathway too, because it's literally a pathway. Like when you are restructuring or making new neural pathways in your brain, it is like you are walking in the forest on a path and you go nope, and you literally go into the bush and on no path, and then day after day you keep walking on that path until it actually until after time your footsteps make like a path in the grass, and it's the path of least resistance because it's open and you can go through them. But the first time you're fucking bushwhacking, and it's like it takes effort, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. So when you're in the process of moving out of some deepened neural pathway into something new, you have to align your actions with your intentions. So what were we talking about? Oh yeah, meditating. Sometimes sometimes I'll be good with it, but I don't know, like when I've gone days without it or something, I'll just like randomly have like a come to self moment. I'll be like, what are you doing? Like, why, like, bitch, do you know what kind of life you've chosen to live? Like, why haven't you just been meditating for like, you've had so much time these last few days, not even 5 minutes. Well, listen, it just goes to show. Sometimes we meditate. Sometimes you go a little while without doing it. I always get back on track eventually. But I've
been guided to really define my practice right now. Like, what does my practice look like? And then like commit myself and devote myself to my practice. And like, that's including meditation. So yeah, it's interesting. The emotions come up. So it's like, what part of me is like, I don't want to commit. I don't want to devote myself because fear of maybe the failure or disappointment, or I'm not going to do it good enough, or like, you know, so like those are just like emotions that are coming up in me. And it's like, oh, where did I feel that when I was younger? There's also this like energy around all of a sudden when something feels like you have to do it, it's like, oh, no. Yeah. Like, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So redefining that kind of stuff too. And I mean, and this is also part of being human, because there's been times in my life not very long ago where I had like a practice and like a schedule, like a ritual in the morning that I stuck to, and I stuck to it very well daily. And then life events happen, like you end up in the hospital or some shit. And since then, it's been hard to like, you're like trying to figure out what is my practice again, and how do I fit it in, and how, and like what does work and what doesn't. Because I also find with me, or just in general, there's so many modalities that you can use. Like if you ask any person, they're going to say, do breath work in the morning. That's the best thing to do. Do a cold plunge in the morning. You got to work out in the morning. Like there's all these things, you know, have your hot tea, like whatever. There's a journal in the morning, meditate. Like, and then there's this like huge list. So then that's where it's like coming to the refinement of, okay, what's actually going to serve me and what's practical. Because I have before also gotten myself into kind of this rut in a way where I'm like, I need to do all the things, and I'm setting myself up for way too much. And when I don't achieve them, I'm like, oh, well, now I failed, and now I feel shameful. And so then redefining, okay, what are the 3 or 5 things that are maybe going to, that I intuitively feel are going to serve me to help me in the morning, and aren't going to be things that I just check off my list, but actually are going to drop me into my heart space, or are going to bring me into the present moment, right, or are going to help clear me out to like begin the day, and actually do that instead of just being like, check, 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 check. I'm spiritual.
Spiritual check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do your breath work today? Like,
speaking of spiritual check, I do want to mention though, I am on day 32 of my 40-day Kundalini practice of abundance. Yeah. I talked about this. I did it over this, like last year over the summer, 40 days of a Kundalini abundance set. It takes about like 15 minutes to do. And I became rich in everything and love and just life. So, because I'm always rich in love and abundance. But I did it again, and I'm like almost done with this 40-day set. So holler, proud of that. So that is like one thing that I've been doing, and I prioritize doing it in the morning because takes so much less mental energy when the whole rest of the day, because it's like kind of an arm workout, this one. So I try to do it first thing in the morning, and I have.
Well, and I do love Kundalini too. Like, I haven't really been doing it lately because I'm in this like space where I'm not really supposed to put my arms above my head, and there's a lot of Kundalini. It's like arms above your head, and you're like moving your arms around and stuff. I haven't been doing that, but I love Kundalini, and I think it is probably the best time to, I wouldn't say the best time, but a really great time to do it is in the morning, because it really helps like center you and ground you, and it clears or whatever it's meant to do. And so like, it is nice to do those things that kind of reset us for the day, get us ready, get us grounded in. Yeah. Because I mean, and I notice like if I don't do my practice, and if I that day choose to like go on my phone or answer an email, I get in this like cycle where all of a sudden like I'm on my phone and answering emails or on the computer all day, jumping from thing to thing to thing, and just being like, I'll do it after this. I'll do it after I get this done. And then there's always something else. And then I always end up feeling crappy that day, and usually like riddled with anxiety. So like,
yeah. And for Kundalini, like the tune in that you do, the Ong Namo Gurudev Namo, the tune in, actually like you're tuning into your higher self. You're like calling on your higher wisdom. So I always definitely feel like accomplished in some spiritual practice after that, because like I know I've tuned in to, like, just doing the tune in is an important practice in itself. So like I'm like, okay, I'm like tuned into my higher self today. Yeah, so that's cool that I'm almost done with that, and I've been feeling good in the abundance category. And at the end, like, you end the 4 movements like with this thing called 1 minute breath, where you like you basically seal the practice into your aura. And I like filling that with gratitude and like affirming that new streams of abundance are being created, like expressing gratitude for everything that's arrived, everything that hasn't arrived, like, you know.
Did you say it's 4 different movements that you do in a set?
Yeah, 4 movements, 3 minutes each.
Would any of them be some things I couldn't do?
Yeah. It's a lot of this. It's that. Have you ever done this set? This one. It's actually all things you can't do. It's this one.
Yeah.
This, and then the last one is that. So that one's okay.
Yeah,
but yeah, two of
those.
Yeah, I think you probably have. I've sent you this thing a million times, but I know it's annoying with your stuff. But I mean, there's obviously tons of other Kundi things that you could do. So
yeah,
breath focused, definitely. Yeah. So, all right. Sometimes we're on our practice, sometimes we're not, but we're all still. It's all good. I also think that we're not necessarily always meant to be in a season where we're going really deep into meditation all the time. Like sometimes, things are a little more like surfacey, and you're like a little more, obviously like there's everything's in flow. We're not always meant to be doing deep 30-minute hour meditations a day. Not saying that that's like what you should be doing. And my bare minimum is at least like doing, like 5 minutes, because what I do is like, putting all of like my protection bubbles or like connecting to source and grounding, like getting all of my light bubbles around me and calling in my guides for the day. You do that daily? No, but I that's like the bare minimum goal ideal. It's like if I'm gonna do something, just setting up all of my light around me, because I set the intention that everything is gonna last for the whole day. And so it's that's basically the spiritual hygiene of it all, like clearing my energy. So that's a good thing to do. Okay, but let's talk about this reading that I had, shall we? Let's finally talk about it now that I've had a few months. Now that I've had months for it to sink in. Okay, I started telling the story a little bit in the last episode. Go check out the last episode if you haven't yet.
And also go check out since we're just like briefly talking about Kundalini, go check out the episodes about Kundalini if you want to like hear a little bit more about what that is, or you're like, what the fuck is that? Or like we talk about Kundalini until a little bit more of more in depth.
I talk about it a lot
in some other episodes. But I mean, it's a very powerful technology that uses like we use like our bodies for, like our biophysiology.
It's technology. It
technology for sure.
Invokes all of the like body map and how our bodies like are a map of the solar system and the universe, and it's just crazy. So that stuff is awesome.
Just like strengthening your aura and stuff, like work you can do on your electromagnetic field and your aura and like
expanding your aura.
Okay, let's get into
magic. Let's get into the reading. Okay, so a few months ago, so it's so cool, like divine timing in terms of like, I feel like this happens for both of us all the time, because we're in this world and we'll have, we'll do an exchange with someone, or we just have a lot of friends that are in this world and do their own types of sessions and all these things. And so it's just cool. Like, I feel like divine timing is always at play with when you get like random readings offered to you, and then it ends up making like amazing podcast content for us. But like, so my friend Danny, I'll put her in the Instagram, I'll put her Instagram in the bio, so that you can go book a reading with her, because she's amazing. And also, at the time that we're recording this, Mikayla has a reading with her tomorrow. So I guess that's appropriate that we're talking about her today. So her is at the Noetic License on Instagram. And I met her a few years ago in this course that I did of my mentor Jenny at Starseed Academy had this course called Unlock Your Highest Timeline. And I was taking that in like in the last year of my PhD program, when I was still like weaning off of the Adderall. I had already quit Adderall, and I was having a really hard time in life. Go back and listen to the episode where I tell that whole story, which would be episode 5 if you are curious. And I was having a really hard time in life, and this class was like a really great lifeline for me, because it was just like it was like really great spiritual community. And it was like a few months long over that. But anyway, so this is where I met my friend Danny. And so kind of out of the blue, she had messaged me just being like, also, I want to give you a reading. and I was like, okay, divine timing, won't say no to that. And it was funny because a few days before the reading, she was like telling me, like, oh, your guides are already talking to me. They're saying something like, she's missing the piece about the stellation. Like, she's missing this one piece, and it's all connected to like, this, like, what she's supposed to like be working on, like what she's supposed to be doing in this lifetime. And she said the term stellation, and yeah, that term ends up being important. But so then she's like telling me this like a few days before the reading, just on Instagram message, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting, because I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. She's talking about some then I looked it up, it's like some geometry term, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. So she had said that was my spirit guides that were saying that. We didn't go into the reading with like any intention, or I've also never gotten a reading from her. I knew that she was a skilled like natural channel, but I didn't even know like what her channeling style was or whatever. But so then we get into the reading, and she was like, so the first thing she says is, so I realized that whoever was talking to me before this whole thing about the stellation and this missing piece that I'm missing for like my research, she was like, that wasn't your spirit guides, that was you. And I was like, and so my first thought was like, oh, like me as a gray, like me as an interdimensional being. I was like, oh, a parallel aspect of me. She was like, no, that was like you. I was like, oh, like higher self? Like, no, human self. It was future me. Future / parallel. Because it's funny, because I feel like in the reading...
Which is still interdimensional, but like...
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It was me. Me from the future. Me from the parallel. Maybe is a better way to put it. And so then this whole reading ends up being... so it's like she kind of just hits the ground running with like all of this information and stuff, and she's like drawing me this picture. But basically... I've never had a reading like this, because usually readings, it'll be like either talking to a higher self or spirit guides or something like that. And so this whole reading, it's like there's 3 of us in the Zoom, because it was me, her, and then future Alyssa. And she is talking to future Alyssa like there's a freaking telephone line, like clear as day. Like, she's such an amazing channeler.
Cool.
She's describing everything that she's saying. She's like, it's like a freaking, they're on the phone. It's like she's on the phone with future Alyssa, like telling me word by word everything that she's saying, everything that I look like the desk I'm sitting at, like all of these details.
Wow.
And it was so cool. And she was like, she looks just like you. Like, it's not like she's like, this is not that far into the future. She was like, she looks exactly like you. She has all of your mannerisms and everything, which I mean, I guess makes sense because it's future me.
Well,
but still, it's me. But still, it was cool. It was just, I guess it was more so just the fact that I hadn't really had a reading like that if I was like talking to future me. It's usually just some, quote, external. Your guides are still like a reflection of you, and whatever. Your guides are also you from one perspective. But like, okay. So she starts like drawing this picture of, okay. I'm like, how should I go about describing this? Let's see. Overall.
Can you draw it? Do you have anything you could draw it on?
I have the picture. I have the picture because she drew it for me. And it looks really cool. And it almost looks like a crystal, like all these different points of a crystal. Mm-hmm. And there's this one pointy piece that like comes up in the middle the most. And so she's saying, what she's saying is basically that there's some kind of like coordinate system, chart, map of time that connects different threads or aspects of consciousness together that I am going to be like discovering, pioneering, like this field of thought of this charting time in this different way. And so this is where the term stellation comes in. The term, I want to read the definition.
What's a stellation?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, so stellation, it's a geometry thing. It's the process of extending a polygon in 2 dimensions, or a polyhedron in 3 dimensions, or a general polytrope in n dimensions to form a new figure. So what that basically means is your face right now.
I'm trying to remember what any of those even are. Like,
so she had said this term before we started the reading, and I did look it up, and my understanding of that is imagine you have just like a flat triangle, like 3 points of a triangle, like on the palm of your hand or something. Like, the stellation of that would be taking the 3 points and bringing it up into a new dimension. So it's like a stellation is like a projection of a shape from one dimension up into another dimension. Yeah. So it's like taking something and it's expanding it. But the key thing here that I've now thought about in some other ways is like it's extending it. So there's always like, it's extending it to some convergent point, because it's like, if you could take 2 points and it's like the stellation of these 2 points is like this point. It's like until those other 2 points converge. So there's some sort of like convergent aspect too, but it's like taking something and extending it up into another dimension. And it's also kind of like, and I have some visuals here that I'm looking at because I'm like Googling it and stuff. It's also like it's like taking a polyhedron shape and like making it more complex out into the next dimension, like making it
polyhedron.
A polyhedron is just like, I think that's just the general term for like a shape with like flat edges.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel I understand.
Oh,
I just thought
that was kind of
like a specific shape, like a hexagon.
No, it's the general term for it. Actually, I didn't even know that was the real definition, but I just got that confirmed. Polyhedron is a 3-dimensional shape with flat polygonal faces and straight edges, sharp corners.
Okay, yeah, 3-dimensional. So it's like it's an actual thing that I could like have and like hold, not like drawing a square on paper.
Right. Yeah, it's like an actual thing. So yeah, so it's like taking the face of one edge, a stellation of it would be just like extending out into to further space, like faces of this shape. So yeah, so like,
so what is the shape? Like what are we talking about? What is this thing that's going into dimensions?
You know, I think it is hold on, wait, let me go back and revisit some of my notes from this, because I have some notes from the reading. Okay, wait. So it's okay. I think what we are stellating here is consciousness. It is what we're doing is we're taking one point of consciousness, extending it up into some like point, and then she said, and then she drew this whole thing where she said then it like flips over. So I'm talking about things like very abstract things right now.
Yeah.
I know. It's very abstract. It was very confusing, and it still is confusing for me, which is why I have a follow-up reading with Danny in a month. But like, okay, in general, we're talking about how different planes of existence connect to each other. So this is the whole concept. It's like, my understanding of it is that there is some, so we know that like we exist right here recording this podcast right now, and we're in one plane of existence. There would be another plane of existence, would just be any other person's existence in any other place that they are, and future, past, or anything. So but because of the quantum realm and the quantum field and the fact that things are connected, there has to be some way to connect different planes of existence. And so my understanding of this whole shape thing is that it might be describing like the geometry of which threads of consciousness travel along. So kind of like a time travel thing in a way. And that's so I'm looking at my notes that I took from the reading. So the shape thing is a little bizarre, but it was kind of just, I think this is just like the starting point of like how to go about making this map or these new coordinates of the idea though is that it's connecting planes of existence. And let me see. So then she was really emphasizing the term threads of time, so that time exists in threads. And so the whole thing was about like almost using as an example, like me, like my future self in this reading, like she was saying like me and her are connected via a thread of time. We're connected via a thread. So the whole thing that I'm going to be like going into or like expanding on is how these threads of time can be expanded and shifted and changed to reach a destination. It's a new way of charting and mapping territories that doesn't currently exist. So it's also coordinates of physical transfer, because then she's kind of getting into this whole thing about how like there's fractals of consciousness that can travel. Like the reason that we're able to communicate with different aspects of ourselves is because there's fractals of consciousness that are physically being exchanged between these different planes of existence.
Huh.
Dude, I know, because
that's a lot.
It's a lot. So, let me see. And then, yeah, because that's the crazy thing. Like there kind of was this like, she started getting into this whole like physical piece of it. Like, hold on, let me see. You're able to, okay, I'm reading some of the notes that I took from this reading. Some of them might be directly like transcribed. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure most of these are transcribed from the reading. Coordinates, physical transfer, physical existence. You will find the coordinates to get to a certain place. Transfer of a physical existence to another time. So, it's the capacity of threads between space to expand and change and shift molecules in a dynamic fashion that allows for transformation of particles into something new. You don't lose form, you recombine form out of other things, a reformulation. So that's what I mean with like particle. There's some sort of like particle, that consciousness particle transfer that's happening like with this exchange between these different planes of existence. So
I think Hather's going to help you with this.
Yeah. It seems like it with the whole electron thing, and yeah, that was so cool. We talked about that in the last episode, guys. And so yeah, like my takeaway, it's yeah. So just in terms of like how I was comprehending this in the moment, I was just very, very baffled. But the thing was, it made sense to me, and it wasn't. First off, like it wasn't that surprising to me, because in the time that I had this reading, like a lot of my thoughts have been around this concept of how we communicate with different aspects of ourselves. This actually been like a really big thought process. And I had the download about the cyclical quantum impressions and like exchanging strengths, or like pulling from, like, yeah, like we were saying, like how you can draw on some skill from a different incarnation. You can draw on a skill that you had at some previous point in your life. So there's this obvious connection between these different aspects of our consciousness in this incarnation and in others. And so there's like this connective thread that exists along all of these aspects. And also a lot of my thoughts, a lot of what I'm naturally drawn to, like what I'm naturally curious about, is this whole thing about like the quantum connections between our own consciousness. So it wasn't that surprising to me, but what was new was how much it's like focused on time. Well, I'm super interested in time anyway, so that also makes sense. But the whole thing with like the stellations and this specific geometry, that was very new to me. And so that was like brand new information that was incredibly helpful to me. And like, yeah, it really kind of gives me a lot of clues and a lot of like a good place to start. And so what this future aspect of me in the reading, like what she was saying too, was I was like, okay, like how do I, what should I be doing? Like, what should I be focusing on to like, figure out this research? And she said to actually to focus on quantum entanglement and string theory. So this is kind of another new thing that has now set me on like a new path of research. So she said like string theory and the concepts around string theory are like, in terms of what exists, are the most similar to these ideas and like this whole thing that I'm going to be like working on. And so she said look at, like, read as much as you can in the existing databases and literature about string theory. And she said, there's going to be something that you come across, like some concept or something. It's going to be like something small, but I'll be like alerted to it. And there's going to be something about it that I'll like be able to notice that is not that, like, there's some concept that like people are skipping over. Like they're skipping over they just assume something to be true. And then I'm going to basically kind of latch onto that and take that and expand it into its whole own thing. And my interpretation of that is, and I mean, I still am not even 100% sure, because I still need to, this is just, life's a journey. I will be just embarking on this process now, on this research. But like, my current understanding of it would be that, because this whole thing of like the coordinate system and like the mapping and charting time and like this coordinates, like she kept on saying like coordinates of between like a map between different planes of existence. So like some way to charting the highway that information travels along to get between different planes of existence. And so we're not talking about like a physical coordinate system. And I did like confirm this in the reading. So I was like, so what we're talking about, like, this is not physical. Like, this is just some kind of theoretical thing that applies everywhere. Like, it just permeates through everything. So that is what, and like she said, yes. So I do have some clarity on that. Yeah, I have clarity on the fact that it just is invisible and it doesn't exist. And it doesn't exist in our coordinate system of physical space as we know it. That's what I have clarity on, that it's nothing. But she was saying like, she kept on saying to not like question myself. She was like, even if it seems like you're making a map to nowhere, that you're charting nothing, you're not. Keep going. That was some of the stuff that she was saying. Like, if it's like, it might seem at first like I'm making a map to nowhere, but I'm not. And I'm like, damn, okay. And yeah, so what else was in there? Oh yeah, and I asked about like, so just the other thing that was funny about this reading was how like I would ask about certain things, or like after she told me all this stuff, then I had this future version of me that was more progressed in research. And it was just funny too, because she was describing her as like, I mean, basically exactly what I aspire to be. So that all tracks, like super mad scientist energy. Like I had this big notebook where I just wrote everything down, and I was just like furiously like looking through my notebook, like, let me see what I have on that. Like, let me see what I have on that. And I'm like I've kind of started that a little bit, but it's like I haven't really fully started walking the path of that mad scientist life, because that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like what we were saying in the beginning, like I too obviously have resistance to going further in this. Like it's like I have the lingering things, but I haven't really written down all of my ideas together yet. Like I haven't started, like right now I kind of just have these different ideas, but I haven't started the process of like putting them all together and looking at everything, looking at this and trying to make sense of it all. So these are just some of the things that like I will step into when I'm ready, or like once I start walking that path more. But so it's just funny because like some of the things I would bring up, or like I would ask a question about, I'd be like, oh, okay, like, oh, I had this download about cycles, or about magnetic fields, or like, oh, is it that, or is it related to this? And she'd be like, no, that's not it. Like that's not it. Like, no, that's not important. That's not important. And it was just funny because then Danny, who was facilitating the reading, would be like, she would have to like put future me in her place and be like, okay, like I know that you don't think this is important, but like, can we address like, but current Alyssa like wants to know more about this, or like, can you answer this question still? And future me is like, oh, we don't have time for that. Like, no, like,
which makes sense, because you're just like, why would you even worry about this? Like, you need to focus on this, which is why I'm coming. Like, right, like. Yeah. Right, because like that's how you'd like right now. If you had the answers for that, and your younger self was being like, "How do I?" You'd be like, "Don't fucking worry about it."
Yeah, like, yeah, no, exactly. It was just so funny. She's like, no, that's not it. That's not it. We've already gone down that path. That's not it.
That's funny.
And so then, but then the other thing that was so cool was, just in terms of like. What I hadn't figured out yet, because I asked about, because yeah, so the way that she was describing like all this stuff, it is in the realm of what I'm interested in, but I wouldn't say it's exactly like what I would have expected for to be like a significant path of my research, or stuff that I'm meant to go down, or like information I'm like meant to, talk about.
Well, it's way more quantum-y than it would be, like astrophysics, like black hole stuff, right?
Yeah, and it is kind of like relevant to black hole stuff too, and wormholes. And that was the other thing. Like then we started talking about wormholes, and how wormholes are very real, and like time travel, and then you just get into like ethical questions about it, because she was saying, I forget how we even got into this, but she was like, well, theoretically, like you could put an entire continent through a wormhole. And like
a continent?
Yeah, that's what she said. Me.
How would you? I don't get that. Like I could see the planet, or maybe like an individual person if you were like, but I don't get how we can just pluck Africa off of Earth and put it through a wormhole. That math is not mathing for me.
I don't know, man. So, yeah, just stuff. Yeah, it's stuff about. It definitely is approaching the realm of astrophysics that it gets into we don't know territory, because that's what black holes get into. Like it gets all into we just don't know. But
black holes exist now. Like it wasn't very long ago that wasn't technically proven either. It was a theory, and now we know that they exist, and we have some photos of black holes, or a black hole. I don't know. Is it one black hole that we found and taken?
We now have two. Well, we found a bunch. We had know about a bunch, but we have photos of two now, and maybe seven.
That used to be a theory. So
yep. So yeah, so very much down this whole path of like time and all this stuff, which is obviously what I'm into, but I thought that maybe it would have more to do with like the planets and the galaxies and the consciousness of them. And so which I mean, it still could, because I asked like, well, what about like, where's our research in terms of like the souls of celestial bodies and like anything more to do with that? Because that is so interesting to me too. And she was like, we're working on it. Like, we're still working on it. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was actually very like beautiful the way that it kind of came through. She was like, it's cool because it's like that's how I feel too. It's like, that is just so the heart of my curiosity. Just like, that's like one of the things that just like kind of keeps me going. I'm just like, how do we, like, the galaxies have souls, and like, are they playing out their own stories, and like, how does that all work? And that's how she described it too. She's like, I think she made this analogy of like, that's what's keeping my like heart beating. Like that curiosity is like, the current like wonder that makes me so like excited to be alive, And so, and she like referred to it as unity consciousness. She's like, I'm trying to understand that now. And then she was like, let me know if you have any ideas. And then I was like, in my mind at first, I was like, well, how could I know better than future me? Like, how could I have anything to add that like you wouldn't already have? And then that inspired a whole other download that I ended up making a video like later that day of just like the loop, kind of like the thread concept too, but just how we're connected to different pieces of our consciousness in this loop, or like a thread. And because it's a loop, you could technically say like the loop is created because when we're born, our existence and the end of our existence are almost created at the same time from a quantum perspective, right? Like as soon as we're born, our existence is created and the end of our existence is created. So there's a thread of consciousness that connects all different aspects to us, but it's a loop because it's the circle of life, right? The cycle. Yeah. So then that whole thought about like, when I'm talking to future me, asking her,
like, I actually see it more of like an infinity symbol, like type of
loop. That too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With like, the field, like, I would say the physical field being on one side, and then the quantum field, the energetic, well, it's all energetic, but the quantum field being on the other side. And then, so that's kind of what you mean, I think, when you say that when you're born, it's also the end, because it's the exact same point. Like, if we look at it as an infinity symbol, the time when if it comes back, and that's where we enter and we exit, it's the exact same point. And it's that middle still point.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. So I was like, the thought process was like, oh, how could I have anything, like, wouldn't future me have the most wisdom? But then I was like, no, it's not linear, because it's obviously not linear, because current you can learn something from a past you, like it's just different. There's different aspects and fabrics of knowledge that we have at these different stages. So then it was kind of this whole thought of like, it's like, there's no reason that current me couldn't afford to learn something from a younger me. So like, why?
We do that all the time. Like,
yeah.
That's literally like shadow work.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So,
I learned from 21-year-old Mikayla that I would rather not learn again, like, or like.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, we just kind of naturally think of it though, or like, I was so quick to be like, oh, future me like would have, like, why would I know more than information than her at this point? But it's not necessarily the case. And then I was kind of just like, oh, this loop of consciousness, like the way that we can communicate, like the direction, the arrow of direction that we're communicating with different aspects of ourselves throughout our life, different aspects of our consciousness throughout our life, the order, the direction of it doesn't necessarily matter. Mm-hmm. It's quantum. It's just exchanging, it's just a constant exchange of information.
It doesn't matter. It's simultaneously happening at the same time, simultaneously. So your future self and you now or whatever, like it's all happening at the same time.
Yep. Yeah.
I was thinking when you're talking about your research with like the celestial bodies and if they have a story and all of that kind of stuff and kind of what have you ever thought about just like asking them?
The galaxies themselves and the stars themselves? Yeah, I have thought about that. And I just don't think I've like really done it. But I should. Yeah.
They have that information, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, hey, what's your story? Do you have a story? Like, what's it like to be a galaxy,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna ask them more. So yeah, like this was it was a very interesting reading. It was very important and very helpful. And yeah, what she was saying too is, like the more I strengthen my communication with this aspect of myself, the more I'm talking to this aspect of myself and having her help me with my research and having her help me right now to reach that point, like the more that I connect with her, the stronger our threads of communication, the stronger our connection gets, of course. And so, yeah, it's kind of, that's like what I've been, doing. Anytime I do spend time kind of thinking about this stuff, or like I've started looking into string theory. A bit more. And anytime I do, like I'm calling in this aspect of me, I'm trying to connect with her more. And it was just super interesting and it all really resonated a lot. But the cool thing, like the best part about this stuff was that like, it just lit my whole soul like on fire. Like after this reading, I was just like, I'm so excited to like research all of this. And like, I'm so excited to just like dive in and just figure it out and just walk the path. And so that's how you know that it's aligned and that it's right. I was just like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to start all of this. I'm so excited to learn it all and to figure it all out. And yeah, so really, really interesting stuff all about just, I don't know, like what is this? Like what, like this, yeah, this is just where my thoughts are now. It's some coordinate system, like to just summarize it in a nutshell, something to do with like a coordinate system that fragments of consciousness travel along to, that would explain like why different aspects of consciousness can communicate with one another, or how you get between different planes of existence. And yeah, just some different way to describe, like, and I think that maybe there's some like interesting geometry to it, just like how our understanding of like a physical coordinate plane is like, you might just imagine like like an XY coordinate system, or XYZ for like a 3-dimensional coordinate system. And it's like, that's linear, and you could draw like a graph with lines, or you could expand it into like 3D. But then what if you take that and you shift it into something that's like geometric and has its own like geometric shape? And what if like that's the coordinate system that fragments of time or something, or that these threads, if there's a thread that connects two aspects of consciousness together, it's like, what if that's the coordinate system that like those threads exist along and those threads move through? That's where my thoughts are right now. That was some of my takeaway from that. But yeah, it's taken like a few months to really like settle in. That reading was mind blowing. It was very cool. I have a follow up on June 17th, and I plan on going deeper into string theory, going deeper into just really channeling on it, meditating on it, and I want to like get some new ideas going and get some information going, and I want to present that to higher self, to future self at the reading, and get some validation on things, get some more information. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. But it's cool because it's like it just ignited this whole new sector. It just gave me so much direction on where all of this research that I've always known, like I'm always known there's like some independent research that's just me like going off on my own thing, like guided, mostly driven by intuition, driven by channeling or whatever you want to call it, but a combination of that with like my regular knowledge. And I got so much guidance for it, and it exists in the pond of my dreams, and it's calling me. It really is. It's like, it's very much calling me to spend more time there and work on it. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited to see what you uncover.
Thanks. Me too. So yeah, to be determined, to be updated on. Update you when I have some more things fleshed out, and I'll see if maybe I have a better way to describe that whole thing, that whole shape with like the pointy thing. But I'll put some pictures up on the YouTube or on the Instagram when this comes out of the picture that she drew me, because she drew me a cool picture of it. But the coolest thing is that it looks like a crystal. And this is where
it's interesting.
Oh yeah, and just one other thing is that like one of the downloads that I've had since then that feels related is kind of has to do with like this convergence thing of the stellations. Because I was like, and it has to do with like quantum physics and observation, because like when you're observing something, it's like your eyes convert, like, you know, the way that your brain creates the image, it's like this is like a optics physics. It's like you have these right. Yeah, but it's like it has to converge. It like it like converges, and then, you know, like it inverts it or whatever. So then I was thinking like I kind of just mostly just fixated on this visual of like two lines converging into one, and I was like, consciousness, observation, like everything is like it's a convergent property. Like that's the shape of an observation. Like the shape of an observation is, because things are either like in general, the way that everything works is like, right, it's like things are either convergent or divergent. Like there's if in anywhere in space, like if there's like there's energy or radiation is either like converging or diverging. You know, this kind of just goes to everything general, above, you know, within, without, right? Converging, diverging. And consciousness, when you're focusing on something and you're creating something, it's a convergent property. And that's also happening when you're observing something. And so then I was thinking about that and how that's connected to the stellation thing, because the stellation thing is like taking 2 points and expanding it up to another point. So it's like an extension of consciousness. So it's like taking something and then it's like the next level of applying, like, yeah, expanding the consciousness, I guess, is like just this convergent property. So yeah, I don't know. Those were just some other random thoughts that I had. But it sure does make your brain hurt.
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
It's a lot. You know, because it's so abstract. Like, we're not talking, like, that's the thing. Like, we're not talking about, and I have nothing to grab onto to, like, just to describe this. Like, so, and that's what it sounded like. It's like, I'm going to have to really trust myself. I'm going to have to really trust what I'm receiving, because it's creating something out. It's creating something where, like, it's uncharted territory, literally. So, I'm up for the challenge. And I'm excited. So yeah. I think my brain is sufficiently done. How about you?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm checking out. My back really hurts.
Yep. No, you're good. Okay, yeah. So we're going to wrap there. Thank you for joining us on this interesting journey through the coordinates of time that don't exist yet that we took today in this episode.
Well, they exist. They're just not mapped out.
Okay, yes, true. They exist. They're not, that are not mapped to the human consciousness yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So thanks for joining us today, and please follow me on Instagram at interdimensional.astrophysics, where I will continue to be making content about all this stuff. And yeah, keep an eye out for my upcoming course that will be coming out this summer. And
this summer. Woo.
Yeah. I got things to promote.
Follow me at Mariposa Moonchild on Instagram and check out my offerings there. And please follow us on the YouTube and leave us a comment there, or a comment on Instagram, or a rating and review on Apple or Spotify. Really helps us out. All of the interaction that we can get if you find our content valuable really helps us out, so that, you know, we can rise up in the algorithms and more people can find us who hopefully also find our content valuable. And yeah, we can call more of those soul family listeners and audience and soul tribe in.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, and we will see you next time. Bye.